We the lazy declare that we will recline when we feel inclined. And yes, we feel inclined.
We answered our kids' questions all day. It's our time to prioritize, no priorities.
Why?
Because
We put in back-to-back doubles, so now we'll be putting in extra OT right here.
We've checked off our to-do list.
Now we're checking off our to-don't list.
We the lazy are taking back lazy.
By getting comfy on our Lazy Boy furniture.
Lazy Boy. Long live the lazy.
Time, weather, and
How you doing, everybody? I'm Chief Meteorologist Denis Phillips. Heat, still the hot topic of weather conversation, right? Just smashed the previous record for rainfall in Tampa. It's still a very nice day. We've got some clouds out there, even a couple of sprinkles as another front rolls through the area. Most of us wake up to sunshine and then very warm temperatures in the afternoon. Our temperatures, they're going up and they're staying up. Really nice forecast, especially if you're planning on going to the beach or the pool. Rain chances very slim. Another beautiful day in store. It's going to bring us a very high chance of storms. Some isolated showers across the area. Mother Nature likes to remind us that it isn't set by a calendar. We're always on it for you just in case things begin to pop.
Streaming from the ABC Action Weather Center in Studio A, this is Denis Phillips Live. Sponsored by Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries. Long live the lazy.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? Thursday night edition of Denis Phillips Live. I just got a text from MJ. Remember MJ on the radio? MJ just texted me. He's like, hey, can we get you on tomorrow? Big Fear Factor day with the hurricanes. Hold on. I'm on DPL right now. Stand by. Everyone says hi. Hey, how goes it? Hey, let's do some hellos. So first of all, a couple of things here. All right, first of all, folks watching on Instagram, thank you very much. I'm still can't figure out how to handle the Instagram deal. Now, what do I mean by that? Instagram goes like this. Instagram has video feeds that are vertical. The other ones go like this, horizontal, right? So when I stream my maps on Instagram, they're cut off on the side because they're not designed to go 16 by 9. So I don't know what to do. If you have any suggestions, please let me know, because when I show graphics and people are like, oh, you're cutting stuff off. Oh, I don't know what to do. I can't help it. And TikTok, I can't even include on these streams because TikTok has its own proprietary streaming service, so I can't even do that. I mean, I guess I could have a camera here and a camera here and a camera here. The problem is you wouldn't be able to see the graphics. And during hurricane season, you kind of need to see the graphics, right? So anyway, yeah, it's a difficult thing. MJ just goes, I will tune in. So if MJ is watching on Facebook, say hello. It might take him a while because, you know, once you get up in age, you got to find the link and, and you know, you got to see what it is. Oh, is it this button to click? Anyway, MJ will be on shortly, quite possibly. Then again, maybe not. Crooked Thumb Saturday. Yes, Mark. Yes, Mark. Okay, so anyway, trying to figure out how to handle the whole Instagram deal, the whole vertical versus horizontal. That's one dilemma, right? The other dilemma, today we were posting, this is a funny story. So I posted some of our new Rule Number 7 hurricane logos that an art guy created. They're really cool looking. I just didn't notice that the hurricane was backwards, spinning the wrong direction. So my guess is maybe the artist on Etsy lives in South America and he's used to them spinning the other way around. I'm not sure, don't know where he lives, but he's going to mirror that and the hurricanes when they're available on June 1st. On our Etsy page, we're going to have FSU colors, UCF, UF, the Bucks, the Lightning, the Rays, all these colors for Rule Number 7. And again, as always, is MJ in the house? Oh, he is. There's Todd. MJ is in the house. So, MJ, you've missed it. We've been talking about you. So you did find a way to actually click on the link. So there you go. MJ is here. But yeah, so we had all these great hurricane logos. Here, I'll show you. Here, let me show you. They're kind of cool looking. Stand by, watch this. The only problem is they're backwards, all right? So that is somewhat of a dilemma, right? So this is kind of cool, right? So that's one of them. And then there's the garnet and gold color, which is awesome. And there's, you recognize that if you're a bull, right? So it's AccuWeather map. So we've got UCF colors, we've got all sorts of stuff colors, and that is going to be available shortly on our Etsy page, which, again, proceeds benefit Children's Miracle Network, Feeding Tampa Bay, Sunshine Foundation, other charities. So the color is going to be awesome once the hurricane is facing the right direction, because we all know in the Northern Hemisphere, counterclockwise circulation for hurricanes. But in the Southern Hemisphere, they go clockwise. So if we make an Australian version of rule number 7 gear, we'll already be set for these. I mean, you just never know. You never know, right? All right, so anyway, MJ, if you know the answer to this question I was talking about earlier, so I'm streaming now on Instagram, right? But Instagram streams like this. And I use a function that allows me to shoot this out, 1 to Instagram, 1 to YouTube, 1 to Facebook, not to TikTok, because TikTok doesn't play with others like that. They don't like to. And I can't figure out how to not cut off the sides for the Instagram viewers, because we are broadcasting like this, and it is broadcasting like this. I need help. I need somebody to tell me how to do it. All right, so let's continue our conversation. We're going to talk a lot about NOAA, talk a lot about the prediction. But before we get there, I want to mention rule number 7. Last year, MJ was going to come to our rule number 7, but I think he got sick. I think he was really sick last year, because Michelle, his lovely wife, and MJ, they were going to come by, but he got sick. So anyway, this coming Saturday, we're going to have at the Crooked Thumb, Safety Harbor, beautiful little town, awesome little town. You should come early. And if you've never been to Safety Harbor, I'm telling you, it's an amazing little town. You can park, you can walk up and down the street. They got great food places. And then from 3 to 5, we are going to have our rule number 7 pale ale debut. They will be selling 4-packs, the cans in 4-packs. It will be on tap. And portions of those proceeds benefit the American Red Cross. We're going to have some of our rule number 7 gear, the new stuff available. Not a lot, because we're making it ourselves and we're just not going to have time to get it done. But there'll be a few things available, so you won't have to pay for shipping. And we're going to have a big raffle, like a giant raffle for my daughter's softball team. All right, and that is going to be lots of donations, lots of gift cards, coolers, a little behind-the-scenes tour at the station, lots and lots of stuff. And my daughter's softball team, Ryan. You guys all know Ryan. She's been part of this show forever. Her softball team's a nonprofit. So we're going to have a giant gift basket with stuff in it, and it'll be a raffle. So whatever the raffle tickets will go for, and not really sure. And then the winner is going to take home all that stuff. So that's going on Saturday. All right. So who do we have here? Sean, how you doing, my man? Last year, Sean couldn't come because he was at the governor's hurricane conference. Or no, he couldn't come to my thing at the Straz because of that. One of those things, I can't remember. Anyway, how you doing? Sean, good to see you. No 540 line in sight. Sorry, my brother. It's the way it's. We're not going to see it again until November. You know this. We've got Crystal and Largo. Adam, workaholic. Adam, the Canes fan. You did notice the Adam, I was trying to figure out the last color scheme that I was going to show, that I sent the numbers, the hex numbers, to the artist. It was either going to be the Miami Hurricanes or the United States flag. Literally, I was down to, I had one left. I'm like, Hurricanes, flag. Hurricanes, flag. Went with the flag. Went with Patriot. It's Memorial Day weekend, for heaven's sakes. Went with the flag. So we got red, white, and blue coming. Not the hurricane colors, unless we get a big demand, and then we'll go ahead. Rolando, how goes it, my friend? Jane and Manatee, nice to see you. Again, Sean, good to see you. Jan and Manatee. Snoopy, how goes it to you? Mark will be at the Crooked Thumb. Mark is a loyal Crooked Thumb follower. He will be there with rule number 7 pale ale in hand. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate it. Very kind. So anyway, so we got lots of stuff to talk about. The drought index has extended a bit more. You are correct, Adam. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about a couple of things. We're going to start with the prediction in case you have not seen it. There it is. All right. So we have the NOAA official prediction. I went on Facebook earlier today and predicted that they would predict 17 to 24 named storms. To quote Maxwell Smart, missed it by that much. Half of the people here are like, what in the heck? Who is Maxwell Smart? What are you talking about? And I say that because I did mention this on air earlier today that, well, I got to switch that wipe. What happened to the suspenders wipe? The suspenders wipe disappeared. I don't see it. Oh, it's gone. Oh, hold on. Let's see. DPL wipe. Maybe this is it. I think that might switch it. All right. So Caitlin, our 6 o'clock producer, was born November 8th, 1994. Why is that significant? Because I started on air here November 8th, 1994. So when I was talking to Caitlin about Hurricane Andrew, and there's a reason for that because, you know, Hurricane Andrew was in a quiet, hey, there's the wipe, there's the suspender wipe. So Hurricane Andrew happened in a year that was kind of quiet, right? The first storm, the A storm, hit in 1992 in the middle of August. Now, if you would tell people in South Florida that it was a quiet year, they would beg to differ. So when you look at these numbers from NOAA, 17 to 25 is the forecast. The average is 14. By the way, the average means the average number of storms over the last 30 years. That's all it is. They just take the last 30 years. Whatever the average is, that's what it is. 15 years ago, that average was 10.4. But because we've had so many more storms of late, the average goes up. Makes sense. How many hurricanes? 8 to 13. The average is 7. How many majors? Cat 3 or higher, 4 to 7. The average is 3. So when you look at that, that gets your attention, and immediately some people start to freak out. I totally get it. But if you've been watching DPL for a while, you know that the number of named storms is insignificant for all practical purposes for Central Florida. Now, what do I mean by that? You go back and look at history. You go back and look at the last 100 some odd years. We obviously have not had a major hurricane hit us directly in 103 years. Look, I'm not going to say we are overdue, because overdue, I think, is kind of a misconception for our area. We are not, statistically speaking, West Central Florida is not in what would be known as a hurricane-prone area. Look, the numbers don't lie. They are what they are. And when you get a hurricane forming from the south, which is our worst-case scenario, right, moving north, as they want to do, because tropical systems want to go toward the pole, any low pressure wants to go toward the poles. If a storm moves in between Cuba and the Yucatan and splits the gap, if it were to go north, it's going to hit the Panhandle. The Panhandle, Florida, is in a hurricane-prone area. The northern Gulf Coast is in a hurricane-prone area because a storm that is moving north tends to want to stay moving north unless something bumps it east. You've heard me say this 11 billion times. What is that something east? A front or a trough? How many front or troughs do we get in July and August? They happen occasionally, but more often than not, they're not there, and a storm will go north toward the Panhandle. So, in a pattern such as we are expecting, and that has nothing to do with frontal boundaries, upper level lows, variances in Saharan dust, whatever the case may be, just keeping it static, a storm will want to go north. So the Panhandle would be in a higher risk with this sort of a pattern. The east coast of the United States would be in a higher risk with this kind of a pattern. Now, what are we looking at here? What the heck is this yellow blob out here? This is the first of many yellow blobs, right? Why do they want to go north? They want to go north because they are drawn toward the poles. That is Meteorology 101. An area of low pressure is drawn north toward the poles. Good question, Dominique. And what would cause it to kick east? A trough or a front. So that yellow blob, you know, the GFS was showing that earlier on, and we looked at this a couple of minutes ago. I'll show it to you again. There's the yellow blob from the Hurricane Center, and there's what they're saying. A large area of cloudiness and showers over the southwestern Atlantic associated with a surface trough. Remember, a trough, something that if it would come into play from a storm coming in from the south, then all of a sudden, yeah, then the west side of Florida would be more prone. But we don't see a lot of troughs in July, August, and September. Well, September we start to see them. Anyway, bottom line, this one's not going to bother anybody. It's going to go northeast, and it's going to go out in the open waters of the Atlantic, and nobody cares. It's not going to bother anybody unless, it's not going to bother anybody anyway, all right? So forget that one. Don't worry about it. First of many. There might be 100, 60. There might be 60 of those waves from now, probably more than that, but 60 to 75 from now until the end of hurricane season. So what we look at when we're talking about these long-range forecasts, one of the big players is this, Saharan dust. You've heard us say this over and over again. Saharan dust is a good thing and a normal part of the season for Africa. From the Sahara, that dust moves across Africa, goes out into the Atlantic, and the majority of the time squashes the development of tropical systems. You're not going to get a lot of moisture if it's all dusty out there, right? So when you're talking about this sort of a pattern, June and July are typically relatively quiet months in the hurricane season in the tropical Atlantic. How do we know that? All right, well, look at this. All right, and I've shown you this map before, but it all kind of comes into play. Bridget does bless the dust out of Africa. Bridget is a Toto fanatic. Toto fanatic. So, Brianna, you missed nothing. Alan is causing now, Alan. Now, I don't think Alan is a troll. I think Alan is making a joke. But just remember, I have the ban button here and ready to roll is as needed. But I think Alan is just having some fun, I believe. But let me know, because I have the almighty power of banning the stream if I choose to. So does everybody keep an eye? Wait a minute, where's Alan? Let's just keep an eye out on Alan. All right, Alan, we're watching you. All right, always watching you. All right, let's get back. So you notice in June, the Gulf of Mexico can be rather active. It can be. He's joking. Joe says he's joking. All right, Joe. I thought he was. It looked like it was. But I just want to make sure, because you guys know we have had our share of trolls before. You know we did. All right, look all of a sudden at August. That's when it opens up. All right? The tropical Atlantic opens up. Now, why does it often open up in the month of August? It's like the science actually makes sense. More often than not, that Saharan dust in June and July retreats northward, opening up the ability for development. So, and not to mention, you typically have very warm water, even more so in August and September. But we already know the water's super warm. That's something we have talked about over and over again. Look, I'm not going to minimize the threat of a significant development, a large number of hurricanes developing. Not to mention, you're not going to hear me, you guys know me, I don't hype stuff. But the warm water, to me, does not represent an increase in the number of storms that develop. That's not the risk. To me, the risk is, at 7:48 and 56 seconds, all that warm water more than likely will increase the risk of rapid intensification. That is the thing that we lose sleep over during hurricane season. Because our worst case scenario in the Bay Area is going to bed with a Cat 1 hurricane and waking up 5-6 hours later with a Cat 4. And it can and has happened over the last several years. And extreme warm water, bottom line, is the #1 factor in determining if that's going to happen. There's a new model out this year that's going to do its best on predicting rapid intensification, RI. We're very bad at it. It has never been a strength. Trying to get better. New models may be helpful, but rapid intensification, in other words, gaining 24 millibars or over a 36-hour stretch, it's the biggest concern because people aren't going to be prepared for, one they might blow off. And they wake up at 4 and it's too late. So again, when you get into August and September, we're already talking about all the warm water. September, now look at the track. Look at such a great map in what we're talking about here. Look at the highest probability track in the month of September. See where it goes? Right around the Bermuda High. Those stay offshore. Now, I'm not saying that the majority are going to, but I'm saying this is a perfect example. What area has the highest amount of developing hurricanes in this map in September? It's all offshore. Okay? Could not be a better map. So when you're looking at what development is going to possibly occur, just because you're getting a higher number of developing storms does not increase the risk of landfall in these storms. Now you can make I will tell you, you make the argument, more storms, more landfall potential. I will go with that argument. The numbers bear that out in the Panhandle. The numbers bear that out along the northern Gulf Coast. The numbers bear that out in Texas. The numbers bear that out in the Outer Banks of the Carolinas. The numbers do not bear that out in West Central Florida. The numbers are the numbers. No matter if we have an extremely active season or an inactive season, we have not seen an increase in the number of landfalling hurricanes in the Bay Area. The numbers show us that once every 4 years, we will have a hurricane pass within 50 miles of the Bay Area. Those are the numbers. Once every 4 years. Not a major hurricane, a Category 1 hurricane. We get a Cat 1 hurricane, you know what's going to happen. There's going to be some trees down. There's going to be power outages. It's going to be a really terrible nuisance. But typically, you don't see a lot of catastrophic damage with a 1. You hardly ever do. No, in fact, you never do, even though the flooding can be an issue for some low-lying areas. But it's a 3 or above when we start to worry about that. So again, this map kind of illustrates what I'm trying to say. Just because there may be more storms does not mean those storms are a greater risk for landfall. But what does concern me, even as we go into October, when you're more likely to get a front or a trough, and you see that green in the Caribbean and see how it goes north and turns into Florida, turns into us, that makes sense. Because those storms, a trough digs in, a front comes in, and that storm that wants to go north runs into a roadblock, and it's steered into Florida. There have been storms that happen that turn into Florida other times. We all know them. Charlie, Irma, Ian. They do happen, and those are big storms. So you simply cannot write them off. But on the other side of the coin, you cannot make the argument, well, we're going to have 21 named storms, so we're bound to have 3 or 4. No, it doesn't work that way. But I think we all know it only takes one. So my message to you is simply put, you got to be ready beforehand. You do not want to be that person at Home Depot or Lowe's 2 days out desperately trying to buy tape or plywood or whatever just because you think that's what you got to do. You're not going to have time. It's going to be mayhem. We've all gone through it. We've been through it with Irma. We went through it indirectly with Ian. I mean, we've had it with storms that are near misses for major hurricanes. I will tell you, Charlie was still the storm that I thought was our biggest threat. 6 hours out, the Hurricane Center had a Cat 4 right into us. Mayor of Tampa was on our set saying we were going to rebuild. And I told Mayor Iorio, I think we want to reconsider. I think it's going to miss us. It looks like it's going to end up going toward Punta Gorda. Never forget, that was a moment we shared. And she's like, I like your forecast the best. Those were her exact words. And that's how it played out. But that was the storm that I truly thought was our storm. I really did. And then we saw that turn, that trough, digging in a little stronger than we thought it was going to be, or at least in the models thought it would be. So Thomas is in the Delmarva, Miles stomping grounds. Matter of fact, I'm going up to Ocean City, Maryland this summer. Hopefully I can stay up there without having to come down for a storm. Yeah, you guys absolutely have to worry about a storm coming in. You guys get your share that if they come in around Norfolk or over on the eastern shore, a brush should be on the west side probably, and less to worry about, but certainly a storm that came in northern portions of the Outer Banks of the Carolinas, up through Norfolk, through Richmond, sure, you guys could absolutely get something. Yes, Jules, Thrashers right there on the boardwalk. Dumpster's Pizza, Dumpster's Ice Cream, Thrashers French Fries, and Pizza Dough. No, what's it called? There's a pizza place that we always go to. Pizza something. I can't remember. And, of course, the Blue Crabs. We usually go to 42nd Street Blue Crabs place, or we go to Higgins. Mike Broussard, Mike, whose mom lives in Louisiana. We have her when a storm hits Louisiana. Mike has a buddy who's a manager of Higgins for Blue Crabs up in Ocean City, so we love going up there. So, at the end of the day, our biggest concern right now is the warmth of the water. You've heard it over and over again. But that does not mean the warmth of the water is not as much of an indicator of the number of developing storms. That is La Nina. Why is that? Upper level winds are more favorable for development in a La Nina year than an El Nino year. We had El Nino last year, and it literally shut down the Caribbean. We had no developing storms in the Caribbean because of the strong upper-level winds, okay? Well, with a La Nina, you don't have those strong upper-level winds. So you have all this warm water that you see right here. You have lower shear. Those are two big ingredients for development of hurricanes. And all that warm water extends all the way out there, anywhere between 2 and 4 degrees above seasonal averages. So I'm not downplaying the threat of a lot of storms, and I'm not downplaying the importance of being prepared. I would never do that. But I am downplaying the mindset that just because we have X number of storms means we have 3X potential to see a landfalling hurricane in our area. We might very well have one. I think we all know, we are going to see a hurricane at some point in time, and it's going to be a bad one. I think you live in, if you live in Florida and you don't know that, you're living in the wrong state. All right? Come on. If you live in Florida, you know a hurricane threat is real. Much more than a tornado, much more than earthquakes, much more than tsunamis. You know hurricanes are our thing, right? So if you're living in Florida with your head stuck in the sand saying, no, we're not going to get one, it's just ridiculous. We are going to see a storm at some point. But just because NOAA and Colorado State and everybody else and their brothers predicting an above average season, which it's going to be, it's going to be. We got all this warm water, we have low shear. The dust can be helpful early on in the season, but remember that dust retreats north on, once you hit August and September, and that's when things really crank up. But the key, honestly, the key to everything is the positioning of the Bermuda High, because that is the driving force in where these storms go. And if that Bermuda High sets up in such a way that it drives these more to the south, and eventually they're going to impact the islands, Puerto Rico, Haiti, the Dominican, Cuba, those are ones we have to watch, because even though they cross the island with all that warm water, they'll have an opportunity to get stronger again. So the warm water is my biggest concern, more than the number of storms that develop, because that opens the opportunity for a rapid intensification. And that is just a bad thing. All right? So, okay. So that's kind of it, guys. Holiday weekend, hot, no rain. And there you go. That's what it is. Hot, no rain. I wish it would be different, but it's not. We do have, obviously there's the look at the temperature anomaly. You're going to see a lot of red there because we are well above average. That is the state of the atmosphere. And that's not changing. So hopefully the dust will do us a good, will do us a solid and limit the amount of development. Hopefully we'll see some upper level lows kicking into the tropical Atlantic and causing these storms to turn north early. That happens all the time. The mesoscale features in terms of a hurricane season, the small features, the ones that impact these storms way out in the Atlantic, can have a huge impact on how they would or would not impact the U.S. Because if they start to turn early, they ain't coming back. They're going to go in the open waters of the Atlantic. All right? So there you have it. I will answer some questions now. For streamers, you are just about done. Again, Crooked Thumb, 3 to 5, meet and greet. This Saturday in Safety Harbor, we're going to have Rule 7 gear. We're going to have a big raffle. And you can try the roll number 7 batch of this year. It's a blast, and it's, again, for the American Red Cross and local charities. Thanks again. Have a great night. Okay, so the streamers are gone. And let us see if we have anything else. Todd was still here. MJ was still here. So, again, we will see if maybe MJ will be able to make it this Saturday. I don't know. But it is a great time. So I've been going on a cruise to the Bahamas on Monday. You will be fine, Lori. That will not be an issue. I'm glad it does, Snoopy. That is my goal. My goal is not to give people a false sense of security. It's not, but it's to give, in my opinion, there are some media sources that take this and turn it into mayhem, hype. I know there are some out there that do that. I won't. I'm not going to downplay something. And someone accused me of downplaying one time. Look, how many major hurricanes have we had here in the last 30 years? 0. We've had it south of us. We've had it north of us. But here, so I'm not downplaying anything. They haven't happened. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and tell people, oh, my heavens, we're going to have 20 to 25 named storms. We are bound to see a major hurricane here. It's just not reality. Could it happen? You guys know it could. Again, we live in Florida. Look at the map. We're sticking out right there in the middle of the ocean. I mean, we're a target for these storms. We know this. If you live in Florida and you don't know that, again, you're in the wrong place or you just moved here. Newsflash, we get hurricanes more than anybody. All right? But West Central Florida is less likely to get them. It's a lot tougher for a storm to come and hit us directly. Cross the state, it happens. But by the time it crosses the state, you're not worrying about a surge. And the wind usually diminishes somewhat as well. But look, I've been here 30 years. MJ, you've been here a long time too. A lot of folks have been here a long time. We are going to go through hurricanes. We are going to go through power outages. We are going to go through headaches. We're going to go through rough weather. And at some point, we're going to be dealing with a major hurricane. It's going to happen. Whether it happens this year or not, who knows? But I'm not going to sit here and tell you the odds are any higher this year than any other year, because they're not. At least not for our area. Outer Banks of the Carolinas, maybe they are a little bit higher. Panhandle, they probably are higher. New Orleans, they're back in the mix after a quiet year last year. That's not to say we won't see it, but statistically speaking, our odds are no greater this year than any other year. If you look at the numbers, it's more of a climatology perspective. Climatology is more the long-range stuff. Meteorology is more the short-term stuff. Okay. Daryl's like, do I think Manatee's going to get it bad? I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Are the Rangers? The Rangers lost yesterday, Bill. The Panthers did a number on them. Okay. Adalia really irritated me last year for our area because you kept hearing hurricane warnings for our area. Adalia never got closer than 115 miles away from our coastline. Hurricane force winds extended 30 miles out from the center. That's it. Basic math skills. Storm 115 miles. Us here. Hurricane force winds much smaller. Maybe to here. We were not going to get hurricane force winds. And I kept preaching that over and over and over on TV. And it was like, oh, hurricane warnings. Use your common sense sometimes, right? And don't get caught up in that hype. That just drove me crazy. And I said it on TV countless times. So anyway, I have started doing a daily Tropics update. I'm trying to figure out a way to do it from TikTok and transfer it over to Facebook without it saying TikTok, because I don't think you're supposed to do that. I'm trying to follow the rules. Now, Stephen just said this. Yes, I lost my house in a flood during Adalia. Can't downplay the threat. Where do you live, Stephen? Where do you live? Because you're exactly right. I said it countless times that water was the biggest threat with Adalia because we knew surge was going to be an issue. But to say, that what you just said is a perfect example of how people hear one thing and maybe don't hear the other things. So with Adalia, we absolutely, I said it, in fact, honestly, I kept thinking I'm saying this too much. People are going to get sick of hearing it. I kept talking about this is about the water, this is about the water, this is about the water. Because the models did a really nice job. We kept showing that map that was showing a 7 or 8 foot surge in some areas, Cedar Key, and even down around Clearwater, I think the map went 6.8 feet. And we kept showing it. But we were also saying, because let's be honest, the only people who are impacted by that are people who live in the water. 95% of our viewing area doesn't live on the water. So you have to give both perspectives. You have to tell the 95% of the people, look, you guys are good. You're not going to flood, and your winds are going to be 40 to 60, afternoon thunderstorm. I mean, we said that countless times. But at the same time, we got to let the people know it's a fine line. And I think we did a really solid job letting people know of the surge potential. I showed that map so many times. So, you know, they're just very, very different things. Jules, I predicted the Stars to win the Stanley Cup about 2 weeks ago. I think the Panthers, so I'm not going to change it now. Jillian Ramos is one of our producers here, huge hockey girl. And I told her last week, or several weeks ago, I said, I think it's going to be Edmonton and the Stars. And I think the Stars are going to beat them. So that's the way the West is played out, right? Now, the Panthers and the Rangers, the Panthers look tough. Panthers shut out the Rangers in New York last night, 3-0. That's saying something. So it's probably going to be Panthers in 6. I'm going Stars in 6. And then the Panthers may very well win the Stanley Cup, but we will see. So, but Stephen, you are exactly right. I mean, the water is such a tricky thing. And even though the models did a really nice job talking about it, it was not a hurricane for us. We had no winds greater than 45, 50 miles an hour. But that water really came up. And as Joe just said, you hide from the wind, you run from the water. And that is exactly the case. And I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to sound cold or heartless on this, but if you live on the water in Florida, you have to have this expectation. You just do, right? I mean, living on the water is amazing. I don't live on the water. I wish I did sometimes. It's beautiful. But if you live on the water, you have to know in the back of your mind, look, I'm on the water. I'm probably going to flood if I'm right on the coast. If you live in an A zone, you're probably going to flood. You got to accept that as part of it. And I know people who live in the water do. They realize that. But in terms of a forecast, you know, with that particular storm, my point was there were hurricane warnings and they were talking all about the wind, and there was just no way we were going to get a hurricane force winds. It wasn't going to happen. Because again, it was 150 miles offshore and hurricane winds extended 35 miles out. That's it. That's all. So, anyway, I guess that's about it. Celtics, wow, you called the Mavs, Jules, to make it? That's impressive. I think most people would have defaulted to the Nuggets. So that is very impressive. All right, so I guess that's about it, guys. Hope to see you Saturday at the Crooked Thumb. Again, 3 to 5. I would love to have you come out. It's a lot of fun, tons of interaction, lots of just good times, and again, for a good cause. So you guys have a great night. And next week, DPL Tuesday, DPL Plus on Wednesday with Nadine. She will be talking about insurance issues, and she's really got her finger on the pulse of insurance problems, questions, challenges in our area. And she will be on here next Wednesday night at 7:30. So DPL Tuesday and Thursday, DPL Plus Wednesday. It's expanding, and we will definitely be. I'll be talking a little bit more tonight about. I'll have a video on the little yellow blob, this one that has nothing to worry about, but we're going to keep our eyes on it. I did not do the weather in Boston, Brian. I worked in Providence for 6 months. 6 months I was in Providence, and I'm like, all right, this is enough. Nothing against Providence, but the cold air was plenty for me. So anyway, you guys have a great night. Hope to see you on Saturday. Have a wonderful and a safe Memorial Day weekend, and we will see you on our next edition of Denis Phillips Live. See you guys.
We the lazy declare that we will recline when we feel inclined. And yes, we feel inclined.
We answered our kids' questions all day. It's our time to prioritize, no priorities.
Why?
Because
We put in back-to-back doubles. So now we'll be putting in extra OT right here.
We've checked off our to-do list.
Now we're checking off our to-don't list.
We the lazy are taking back lazy.
By getting comfy on our lazy boy furniture.
Lazy boy, long live the lazy.